Let's do a mock draft for the 2025 NFL draft class. I did one before free agency. A lot of things have changed since then. So let's do 2.0. This will be the last mock draft involving the 2025 draft class on this channel. I don't want to come out and make over 5 to 10 mock drafts because at that point, you're just overdoing it. With the first overall pick, it's pretty simple here. Tennessee Titans, they need a quarterback in the worst way possible. I have them selecting Cam Ward, a home run hit. He reminds me a lot of Jordan Love, but he could be that Steve McNair type of quarterback with the Tennessee Titans. And he was a very successful quarterback with the Titans. The thing with the Titans is this. You didn't sign Russell Wilson. You didn't even bring in another veteran quarterback. And the quarterbacks on your roster, Will Levis, Brandon Allen, Tim Boyle. None of those quarterbacks scream long-term fit with Coach Callahan. And none of those quarterbacks are screaming to get you to over 10 wins for this upcoming season. I'm not saying that Cam Ward's going to come in immediately and take this team to the AFC Championship like how Jaden Daniels did with the Washington Commanders. He took them to the NFC Championship, and how CJ came in this division and he took the Houston Texans to the NFL playoffs. I will say this, though. In order for the Tennessee Titans to compete in this division with the Houston Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars, you need a quarterback and you need more offensive line help. And they have done that within the last 2 years. They went into free agency, tried to fix the offensive line. They signed Dan Moore Jr. to a very expensive deal. We'll see if he pans out. He did let up 12 sacks last season with the Steelers. But you have Cushenberry at the center position. He's coming back off an Achilles injury. You got him in free agency a year ago. You drafted J.C. Latham, you have Peter Skoronski, and you have two very good running backs in the backfield with Tony Pollard and also with Tajay Spears. Chika Kongwo, tight end position, Calvin Ridley, wide receiver spot. I like the Tennessee Titans if they definitely go out there and if they select Cam Ward with the first overall pick. The second overall pick, we have the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns, they need a lot of help here because they have three options. They have Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders. I don't know what the hell has happened with Shedeur Sanders over the last 2 months. It seems like his draft stock is falling. I don't know where that came from because just 4 to 5 years ago, everyone in the national media, they had so many great things to say about Shedeur Sanders. And I still feel the same way about Shedeur Sanders. I go back, I watch film, I watch him play. He's the most accurate quarterback in this class. He doesn't have the best arm, but it's good enough. He reminds me a lot of a better version of Brock Purdy with his accuracy and his anticipation. The Cleveland Browns did sign Joe Flacco. They did make a trade to go out there and bring in Kenny Pickett, and they still have Deshaun Watson on this roster. So the talks about them going out there and making a trade for Kirk Cousins, those talks are dead. They can't afford the deal right now because of Deshaun Watson. The owner came out and he said that he's taking a lot of responsibility for how bad things have ended up with Deshaun Watson and the Browns. They need to take another massive swing. This could be a bit of a controversial pick, but you guys know me. I'm sticking to my prospects. I'm not going to change just because analysts come out and they say they're down on the prospect. I am still high on Shedeur Sanders. So with the second overall pick, I have the Cleveland Browns selecting Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to tell you why. Adversity, he always overcomes it. He went to Jackson State, HBCU school, not the most popular option for a quarterback like him. He excelled with Jackson State. He goes over to Colorado with his dad. One of the worst offensive lines I've seen in college history and back-to-back years, and yet he still performed. He doesn't put the football in harm's way. He can be conservative if you want him to be. He can go out there and be one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL over the next few years, even with a bad offensive line. He doesn't have great athleticism, but it's good enough for him to move outside the pocket and create some very good plays to Travis Hunter, to Jimmy Horn, and we saw that with Colorado. 37 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions. The accuracy and the poise will get him to excel at the next level, and I think the Cleveland Browns will finally hit on a franchise quarterback. And I look at Kevin Stefanski. He has never had the chance to select a quarterback in the first round and fully develop him. They did go out there and they did draft DTR. He was terrible. He's now the backup with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see if he can pan out. And I know a lot of Browns fans may say, but Travis Hunter's a better player. The same with Abdul Carter. You have Myles Garrett, one of the best pass rushers in the league. You haven't had much success because your quarterback situation hasn't been good. And when you look at Joe Flacco, I know that he got you to the NFL playoffs a few years back. You had so many injuries. Nick Chubb went down. Your two top tackles went down. Joe Flacco came in after the halfway point in the season. Looked very good. But let's get one thing clear here. Joe Flacco was not going to be the long-term answer. And I saw him with the Indianapolis Colts. He didn't look too hot. He's a solid backup to have. As a starter, you're not going to be better off with Joe Flacco. He's a better option than Deshaun Watson, but you take Shedeur Sanders, and eventually you could kick Deshaun Watson out the door. You have Kevin Stefanski, Shedeur Sanders. That's a very good fit in my opinion. If they go with Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, I wouldn't be mad, but they should definitely look at the quarterback position. With the third overall pick, the New York Giants, they need a lot of help right now. They did sign Russell Wilson. They did sign Jameis Winston. Even if Shedeur Sanders is available with the third overall pick, they should not be building for the future. If I'm Joe Schoen and Brian Dable, I'm trying to save my job right now. I'm selecting Travis Hunter. You can put him alongside Malik Neighbors. I think that he's personally a better wide receiver than he is a defensive back, but he's also a very good defensive back. He had 1,258 receiving yards, 15 receiving touchdowns, and he had 4 interceptions on the season. He's a definition of a game wrecker. We haven't seen a prospect like this in a very long time. He's one of those players. It's a great chance that he is not going to be a bust, because if he doesn't work out on the offensive end, we'll put him on defense. If he doesn't work out on defense, we'll put him in on the offensive end. And you have him as the number 2 wide receiver alongside Malik Neighbors, and you have Russell Wilson throwing them the football. That's a good recipe. And Russell Wilson is not a bad quarterback. He helped the Steelers get to the NFL playoffs last season. So going out there and getting the Heisman Trophy winner is a A+ with the New York Giants. With the 4th overall pick, we have the New England Patriots. They should run to the podium. Abdul Carter. Phenomenal talent. 12 sacks last season, 2 forced fumbles. He reminds me of being a better version of Micah Parsons because he can stop the run and he's great at getting to the passer. The 12 sacks, the 2 forced fumbles, just a very good complete football player. And when you look at the Patriots, you don't need to select someone like Ted McMillan with this pick, the Arizona wide receiver, because you went out there, you signed Stephon Diggs, and you have Kayshawn. And you still have Jalen Polk, who you selected in the 2nd round. Let those wide receivers develop behind Stephon Diggs. You can say they need offensive line help. That's true. But you signed Morgan Moses. And you also brought in some more interior offensive line help there. And you have Mike Vrabel. The offensive coaching will be better with Josh McDaniels. I do believe that if the Patriots select Abdul Carter within the next 2 to 3 years, they could be a playoff caliber team if Drake May does work out. Because we're talking about Harold Landry, Keon White, and also Abdul Carter, that NASCAR package and what NASCAR is in the NFL and just football in general. We put our best pass rushers out there on 3rd and long. We're going to get to the quarterback. And these are the type of players that you need in this division, because you have Josh Allen, you have Tua. You need to bring those quarterbacks down as fast as possible. And the same with Justin Fields. Pass rush would be the key here, and Mike Vrabel is defensive mind. So getting Abdul Carter would be great for the New England Patriots. With the 5th overall pick, have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They still need some secondary help. You can say they need offensive line help. I do believe that Liam Cohen is going to do wonders for Trevor Lawrence and everyone on this offense. We saw Brian Thomas Jr. last season break out as a rookie. But I look at the offense, you don't want to touch it with this pick. You need defensive help. The Jaguars' defense over the last 2 years has severely regressed. You still have Trayvon Walker, very good pass rusher, and the same with Josh Allen on the opposite side. They need interior defensive line help. They could trade this pick. But I like Mason Graham. Mason Graham could be that piece that they're missing right now. Because when I look at this division, you'll possibly have Cam Ward to go against with the Titans. You need defensive pressure. CJ and the Houston Texans, you need defensive pressure. And then when you look at the Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones. Anthony Richardson, he loves to run. You have Josh Allen on the outside with Trayvon Walker. You blow up the middle of the field. Where is he going to go? So getting Mason Graham would be awesome for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Can stop the run, can eat up double teams, can get to the passer at a consistent rate, especially for a defensive tackle. With the 6th overall pick, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders could trade this pick. And by the way, I'm not doing trades in this mock draft. The Raiders need a lot of talent. They did go out there. They brought in Pete Carroll, brand new head coach, brought in Geno Smith. They're not selecting a quarterback. You can say they need wide receiving help. I like Jacoby Myers a lot. He was a true number 1 wide receiver with the Patriots. Wasn't a top 10, wasn't a top 15 wide receiver, but he was good enough. He's good enough with the Raiders. Trey Tucker can take the top off the defense, be a very good football player. Brock Bowers, best tight end last season as a rookie. Phenomenal player. You don't need to touch the outside and those perimeter players just yet. You could use another defender to play alongside Max Crosby. but they had one of the worst rushing games last season in the NFL. They're in the bottom of the league. A lot of that is because their offensive line was terrible on the interior. Their running backs are not the best, and their offensive coaching was terrible last year. But you bring in Chip Kelly. What's the one thing that Chip Kelly loves to do? Run the football, work off of play action. I look at Ashton Jeanty. He's too good to pass up with this pick. And I look at Ashton Jeanty in an offense with Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers, and the same with Brock Bowers. You're taking best player available back-to-back years. You're going to be on to something if you are the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm taking Ashton Jeanty with this pick, and we saw him beat Boise State's offense last season. When you look at Ashton Jeanty, 2,601 rushing yards, 29 rushing touchdowns. And I know the last running back that they selected in the first round was Josh Jacobs. He had some solid years with the Raiders, and that was underneath bad leadership, bad management. I look at what the Raiders are building right now. Veteran coach in Pete Carroll. Look at what he did with Marshawn Lynch for so many years with the Seahawks. Look at what he did with Kenneth Walker III, Zach Charbonnet. He loves to run the football. You get a home run hitter who can take a lot of pressure off of Geno Smith, and you can revert Geno Smith back to that game manager role, like how it was a few years ago with the Seahawks. I like this pick. With the 7th overall pick, we have the New York Jets. I have them selecting Armin Membu, tackle from Missouri. They need offensive line help still, and it's crazy to think about. This is the best tackle in the 2025 draft, in my opinion. He could play guard. He could play tackle. He's a better tackle than he is guard. And you're pairing him up with Olu Fashanu, who you drafted last year in the first round at the tackle position, and you have Elijah Vera Tucker. So you have 3 young players that could potentially be solid offensive line pieces moving forward. You don't need to touch the quarterback position because you have Justin Fields on a 2-year deal. Essentially, it's a 1-year contract. And you have Breece Hall in the backfield. The reason why Breece Hall had a down year this previous year, bad coaching with Ty Downing and also with Nathaniel Hackett, that's true. But a lot of that was also because of bad offensive line protection and bad offensive line run blocking. Go out there and get some better offensive linemen for your quarterback and for your running back, and you'll be okay. With the 8th overall pick, we have the Carolina Panthers. Jalen Walker, defensive end from Georgia. I don't even have to spend much on this. The Carolina Panthers had a down year last year for the first half of the season. Then on the back half of the season, Bryce Young looked like a superstar. The Carolina Panthers' Achilles heel was their defense. You have Xavier Legette, who could be a true number 1. You're bringing back Adam Thielen, who is still a solid slot wide receiver. You have Chuba Hubbard in the backfield. You signed Rico from the Dallas Cowboys in free agency. So your offensive line and your offense in general, you're set. And you've built your offensive line over the last 2 years in free agency and through the NFL draft. Getting Jalen Walker to pair up with pieces like Bobby Brown, with Wharton, who you brought over from the Kansas City Chiefs, you're going to be in a very good spot. But your pass rush has not been the same since you traded Brian Burns to the New York Giants for a 2nd round and a 5th round pick. And when I look at Jalen Walker, he has that same upside that Trayvon Walker had. Jalen Walker, 6.5 sacks last season. Popped off the screen. Very good player, and he was dealing with injuries as the season progressed. I think he could come into Carolina Panthers, and he could potentially be the best pass rusher in this division over the next 2 to 3 years. And it gives the Carolina Panthers something to look forward to on the defensive side of the ball. He could come in immediately and just worry about just focusing in on putting the passer down on his back, and that's it, because you have those run-stopping defenders alongside him. With the 9th overall pick, it's the New Orleans Saints. If Shedeur Sanders is here, you run to the podium, you take him. Because it's time to move off of Derek Carr. I really want to go Jackson Dart with this pick. But Jackson Dart, in my opinion, is too rich to take him in this portion of the NFL draft in the 1st round. And the Saints, they have other needs. The reason why I want to take a quarterback with this pick, Derek Carr is dealing with a shoulder injury. And he may miss majority of this upcoming season, if not all of the upcoming season. And they're paying him a lot of money. Derek Carr has not been a good quarterback with the New Orleans Saints so far. And you have a brand new head coach in Kellen Moore, brand new offensive system. And when I look at Spencer Rattler, I think that he will be good enough to go out there with the right pieces. Call me crazy. Spencer Rattler got to come into the game last year when Derek Carr went down. 4 passing touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Doesn't scream franchise quarterback. But when you look at the context, top 2 wide receivers were injured. No Chris Olave, no Rashid Shaheed. Alvin Kamara was dealing with injuries. He had injuries on the offensive line. But you have your offensive line down to the T. You have Tyler Fuaga, you have Trevor Penning at the respective tackle positions, and you have Eric McCoy. So I think your offensive line is good enough. You don't need to take offensive line with this pick. I look at pass rusher. They need a pass rusher, but they re-signed Chase Young. They have Brian Bresee, very good defensive tackle, who can get to the passer at a consistent rate. You still have Cameron Jordan. He's around. So you can move pass rusher down the aisle. You need wide receiving help on the outside. Chris Olave is a very good player. He's a true number one in my opinion. The problem is this. He's suffered with so many injuries. And if Chris Olave goes down, your entire offense isn't the same. I have them selecting Ted McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. Big body wide receiver. He can come in. He doesn't have to be your number one wide receiver out the gate. He can be that number 3 wide receiver early on. And then eventually as the season progresses, you warm him up in that spot. He's a definition of a 50-50 ball wide receiver, and he's very good with running for the catch. And the separation is there. Think of Mike Evans. Think of Drake London. That's the type of player that he could be. And both of those wide receivers are in this division. And now you can put Chris Olave inside the slot. You can move him around while Ted McMillan can play the outside as a wide receiver. With the 10th overall pick, we have the Chicago Bears. Ashton Jeanty will be perfect for this team, and the same with Amari Hampton. But I look at Ben Johnson. You have DeAndre Swift. It's not a bad running back. And what's the one thing that Ben Johnson has done with the Detroit Lions in the past? Help build that offensive line and play aggressive up front, playing alongside Dan Campbell and coaching alongside Dan Campbell. I look at Will Campbell, tackle from LSU. He may sit for a year. You have Braxton Jones. You have Darnell Wright. But you've built this offensive line through the offseason. Continue to build the trenches with Caleb Williams. The skill position is there. You have Rome Odunze. You have DJ Moore. You have Cole Kmet at the tight end spot. Your defense is pretty much set. You could bring in another edge rusher, sure. But I like Montez Sweat a lot. He's a very good player. That's why he made a trade to bring him in 2 years ago. And he led the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears in sacks. The first player in NFL history to not lead just one but 2 teams in sacks that season. I look at your secondary. You have Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson. Very good players. Ain't just re-signed Kyler Gordon to a deal. So your defense is top notch right now. Your defense is not the reason why you were bad last year. And the same with Caleb Williams. He was not the bad. He was not bad. He wasn't that bad. The reason why the Bears weren't that good last season, coaching and offensive line problems. Bring in Will Campbell and you'll be okay. With the 11th overall pick, we have the San Francisco 49ers. Once again, another team that needs offensive line help. You have Brock Purdy. Last season was not the ideal season. You dealt with so many injuries. Brandon Ayuk, he got injured. Deebo Samuel, you traded him to the Washington Commanders. But you have Ricky Pearsall, you have Brandon Ayuk coming back, and George Kittle. And Christian McCaffrey missed majority of the season, dealing with Achilles tendonitis, and he tore his PCL against the Buffalo Bills. The one thing with the San Francisco 49ers that they have not addressed in the first round is offensive line. And we have seen this over the last 3 to 4 years with Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo. You need to give them offensive line help. Now look at Brock Purdy. I think that he is a franchise quarterback. You go out there, you select Kevin Banks with this pick, tackle from Texas, have him play alongside Trent Williams and potentially become that franchise tackle after Trent Williams. I think the San Francisco 49ers are building for the future and trying to win right now. And you bring back Robert Saleh on the defensive end, your defense will be better. But taking Kevin Banks with this pick would be smart with the 49ers. With the 12th overall pick, we have the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys need a lot. They need a running back. They need interior offensive line help. They need defensive help. But they need another wide receiver to help out CeeDee Lamb. The top 2 targets last season with Dak Prescott before he tore his hamstring against the Atlanta Falcons, Jake Ferguson, tight end position, and he was dealing with injuries last year, and CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb's a phenomenal player. Matthew Golden, fastest wide receiver in this year's draft class, coming over from Texas. Tell him to come down from Austin and come down to the Dallas area. You should take him with this pick. Now you'll have an offense with Matthew Golden, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson. You're paying Dak Prescott a lot of money. It is what it is at this point. You can't go out there and take money out of his contract, but you can still continue to build around Dak Prescott. And it slides Jalen Tolbert back down the depth chart. Jalen Tolbert, solid wide receiver, but he's not consistent enough. Matthew Golden did not put up big numbers last season, But as the season progressed, he looked better, especially in the college football playoffs. He can go out there and win one-on-one situations. He can play inside the slot. He can play on the outside. He's a versatile wide receiver, and you can run some end-around plays with him and his speed. I like Matthew Golden with this pick. With the 13th overall pick, we have the Miami Dolphins. Josh Simmons, tackle from Ohio State. They need offensive line help. And do not be surprised they possibly trade Tyreek Hill on draft day because of all the problems that he's been causing off the field. In terms of him saying that he's dumbed the organization, he's going to do what's best for him. Just a couple weeks after they basically talked to him, he came back and said, you know what, I'm happy to be part of the team. They may trade Tyreek Hill. But when I look at Josh Simmons from Ohio State, he's a very good pass protector. Terran Armstead just retired. You need tackle help. They need offensive line help all the way through. And Tua has struggled with concussions over the last 3 years of his career, even dating back to Alabama. You need to protect Tua. This is an offense that wants to take a lot of deep shots down the field. You can't do that if your offensive line is not good enough. So bringing in a tackle that can help protect the blind side of Tua is a positive. With the 14th overall pick, we have the Indianapolis Colts, having them selecting Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. Tyler Warren can come in right now and be that Brock Bowers type of tight end with the Colts. The problem is this: who the hell is going to be their quarterback for the future? Anthony Richardson has not looked good his first 2 years in the NFL. And you bring in Daniel Jones as a backup. Now, we'll see who wins that quarterback battle in training camp. But I look at Tyler Warren. You have him alongside A.D. Mitchell. The same with Michael Pittman Jr., who is a true number one and is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. And you have Josh Downs. They have talent. But I look at the tight end spot. They need a lot of help there. So going out there and bringing in someone that had 1,233 receiving yards and 8 receiving touchdowns, that's a net positive. And you look at Shane Steichen. Look at what he did with the Philadelphia Eagles. He fed Dallas Goedert over and over again on second and third down. Tyler Warren can do the same thing. And when you look at Tyler Warren, he has a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and obviously he's a tight end. He had receiving touchdowns last season with Penn State. He's a versatile player. So don't be surprised they line him up in the backfield and he's running routes out of the backfield similar to a Christian McCaffrey, and the same with Alvin Kamara. I compare him to being an Aaron Hernandez type. He's basically a wide receiver in a tight end's body with the wiggle that he has. When we talk about generational tight ends, Tyler Warren deserves to be in that conversation. He's a great player. And you look at Penn State, they will run certain drives through him to where teams will go out there, they will double team him like he was a wide receiver. All they have to worry about is development with Anthony Richardson, and the same with Daniel Jones. 15th overall pick, we have the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have been hitting the skill position over and over again with Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Michael Penix Jr. You need defensive help and you need edge rushing help. Leonard Floyd got cut by the San Francisco 49ers. He comes over to the Atlanta Falcons. You still need another pass rusher just in case he doesn't work out. I have them selecting James Pierce Jr., defensive end from Tennessee. He has 7.5 sacks last season. He isn't known for stopping the run, and that's the one knock on him compared to the other pass rushers going in the first round projected. He's not that great against the run, but he's solid enough against the run. If he comes in on second and third down and you're passing the football, that's where you want him in the game. And I look at Raheem Morris. He's a defensive head coach. He was a very good defensive coordinator with the Los Angeles Rams for many years. Help develop this defense, because I go back to certain games, especially this game in particular against the Washington Commanders. Michael Penix Jr. is going up and down the field over and over again. Bad clock management, yes, but that defense could not stop Jaden Daniels. The defense could not stop Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. One way of doing that is by bringing in a bunch of defensive linemen that can bring the quarterback down and that can stop the run. Leonard Floyd would be that veteran. And you look at James Pierce Jr., he could come in and eventually be that true pass rusher and that franchise guy that you haven't had in a very long time for the Atlanta Falcons. With the 16th overall pick, we have the Arizona Cardinals. They need linebacking help. You can say that they need pass rushing help, but they brought in Josh Sweat through free agency. I look at the secondary. Why not bring in a shutdown cornerback and Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan? Long, lanky, athletic, and you look at what you have in your head coach. When I look at the head coach that the Arizona Cardinals has, Jonathan Gannon, he went out there and he helped build that defense with the Philadelphia Eagles. What did they have? A bunch of edge rushers that could get to you consistently. Now you have that with Josh Sweat. You have that with Xavier Collins. On the back end of that defense, you have Max Melton. There's a lot of upside there. Bring in a true number one cornerback, especially in this division. You're going to deal with Cooper Kupp with the Seattle Seahawks, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. You need secondary help in this division, and getting Will Johnson will be the plus here. I know that he's coming off an injury, but it's nothing too serious. 2 seasons ago, he was phenomenal. He would have easily been a top 5 to top 10 pick 2 years ago, and even the year before that. But when I look at Will Johnson, he's able to go out there and take number one wide receivers away, and he would fit the system of Jonathan Gannon as being a press man cornerback. His last season wasn't bad. He dealt with injuries, but we've seen him when he's fully healthy. He's one of the best cornerbacks that you can have at this age. With the 17th overall pick, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. This is where things get very interesting with the Bengals. Trey Hendrickson is very upset. He wants a contract extension. They may trade him. They may not trade him. You paid Jamar Chase a lot of money. You paid T. Higgins a lot of money. Joe Burrow is one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Your defense was atrocious last season. And just in case Trey Hendrickson wants to hold out or you trade him, you need an edge rusher. Even if he wants to still play with the team, you still need an edge rusher in this division. Have them selecting Shamar Stewart, defensive end from Texas A&M. Only had 1 sack last season. So you may ask yourself, why in the hell would the Cincinnati Bengals take him and he only had 1 sack? Because he was getting double teamed from week 1 all the way through the rest of the college football season. His pressure rate was one of the highest pressure rates in Texas A&M history in the season. He can get to the quarterback on a consistent basis. And sometimes it's not about sacks. It's about making the quarterback feel a type of way inside the pocket. All he has to do is win those one-on-one opportunities, because Trey Hendrickson, who just led the league in sacks, he's going to get double teamed majority of the time. You have Shamar Stewart on the opposite side, win his one-on-one battles. That is a recipe for success with the Cincinnati Bengals, because you're building your defense through your front 7. And usually when you do that, your secondary will be better because of that. When we look at some of the secondaries through NFL history, they have some great players. Don't get me wrong. But what did all those teams have in common? A nasty pass rush. And that's what the Bengals should be looking for. And with the 18th overall pick, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks need a lot of offensive line help still. You're bringing in Cooper Kupp. You're bringing in Sam Darnold. So it's basically a brand new team with those 2 players. Your offensive line has been beat up over the last 4 to 5 years. Charles Cross has been a very good tackle. Abraham Lucas, on the other hand, has been a very good tackle when he's been able to stay on the field. But he's been dealing with so many injuries over the last 2 seasons. And he's been dealing with knee injuries. But you need interior offensive line help even more than Abraham Lucas staying on the field. I have them selecting Gray Zabel, guard/center from North Dakota State. Now, he could play center, he could play left guard, he could play right guard. And I'm surprised a lot of people in the national media are not speaking about this. He was a very good interior offensive lineman. Reminds me a lot of Jackson Powers Johnson from last season when he was coming out of Oregon. The only difference is this: he's not dealing with the concussion injuries that Jackson Powers Johnson was dealing with. When I look at Gray, he's a phenomenal player because he's a plug and play guy. And he can play the tackle position also. You don't want to play the right tackle position, but if he needs to, he will. And he's one of those players that the Seattle Seahawks could use right now. When you look at the pass rushers in this division, Josh Sweat, Arizona Cardinals. You look at what the Los Angeles Rams have with Kobe Turner. You look at Braden Fisk, and the same with Byron Young, all those players. And Nick Bosa, you need offensive line help. We may look at the tackles and say it's all on them. But the best way to get the most out of your tackles are by bringing in powerful offensive linemen in the interior. So going out there and getting Gray with the Seattle Seahawks would be a home run hit. With the 19th overall pick, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the Buccaneers have done a lot of good things in free agency. You went out there and you brought in Hassan Reddick, boom or bust deal. If he doesn't work out, it would suck, but it's just a 1-year deal. I think Hassan Reddick is going to be a very good football player with the Buccaneers. Last season with the Jets was just a bad year with everyone involved. The Buccaneers still need secondary help, but you have Zion McCollum, who was solid. You have other players in the secondary. They went out there and they stepped up. I look at Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama. A very good sound tackler. And what's the thing that Todd Bowles loves the most with his defense is his front 7 play. and you look at this division, the Carolina Panthers, they love to run the football with the players that they have in the backfield. They're going to want to go out there and do that with Rico, and especially with what they did last season with Jonathan Brooks. When he was able to come in for just a couple of games, he looked solid. Towards ACL, he's going to be out for this upcoming season. But we saw what they were able to do majority of the year with their running backs. We saw what the New Orleans Saints like to do with Alvin Kamara and the running backs they have with that organization. And the same with the Atlanta Falcons with having Bijan Robinson. Going out there and getting Jahad Campbell, who can stop the run, and he can also blitz from the inside of your defense, would be a fit for Todd Bowles. And I see that this being a pick too good to pass up. So I have them selecting Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama. With the 20th overall pick, we have the Denver Broncos. The Broncos need wide receiving help. You did bring in Evan Ingram at the tight end spot. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries over the last 3 years. You do have a true number one on the outside with Cortland Sutton, but they need someone that can beat you up underneath and take the top off the defense. And that's why I have them selecting Luther Burden, wide receiver from Missouri, a very good football player. His last season was not his strongest season. Just a year before, he looked like a bona fide top 10 pick. I don't know why he slid so far back in production, but a lot of it could just be because of a new year. He wasn't a diva. He wasn't begging for the football. He wasn't complaining. I look at him in this season, in this system, with Sean Payton. Sean Payton loves to use wide receivers all over the field. He loves to move you around with motion. They didn't have much motion last season with Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. You know that's going to come. We saw this with Drew Brees. We saw this with Russell Wilson in his first year. He's going to use wide receivers a lot behind the line of scrimmage, and Luther Burden can do that. He can separate, take the top off the defense, and he can be that Deebo Samuel type of wide receiver. And Luther Burden, alongside Sean Payton, I like that fit a lot. With the 21st overall pick, we have the Steelers. Now, I want to pause here for a second. Russell Wilson went to the New York Giants. They no longer have him with this organization. Justin Fields went to the New York Jets. He's no longer with this organization. They need a quarterback. I know that Mike Tomlin is still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. As I record this video, he has not signed just yet. He may wait after the NFL draft. But right now, the Steelers, they shot themselves in the foot. Your number one and number two option at the quarterback position, Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. And they still need defensive tackle help. They can go with someone like Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, big defensive tackle. They can go with someone like Kenneth Grant from Michigan, defensive tackle. They missed Michigan's pro day to meet with Aaron Rodgers. This is not the most popular pick, and I don't love this pick, but it makes sense. I have them selecting Jackson Dart, quarterback from Ole Miss. If Shedeur Sanders is here, run to the podium, take him. But I think the furthest that we'll see Shedeur Sanders drop would be to the New Orleans Saints with the 9th overall pick, unless the Steelers move up. They need a quarterback, and they need to take a quarterback with this pick because they don't have a second round pick. They could potentially trade down. All of the reports about them going with someone like Tyler Shutt in the second round, they don't have a second round pick. In the third round, they need running back help. So go ahead and address this need right now and select Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart was solid at Ole Miss. Comes over from a system that's not NFL friendly, but he has a big arm. He has mobility. This is not a Kenny Pickett situation because he did more than Kenny Pickett did at the college level, and he was asked to do more also. Jackson Dart could be a solid fit with DK Metcalf, and the same with George Pickens. With the 22nd pick, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. My first mock draft, I had them selecting Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. They have Ladd McConkey. That's a bit of an issue because they play in the same spots of the field. Ladd McConkey is a very good slot wide receiver, and he was the best wide receiver last year. You still have Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston is not a true number one, and I look at him as a number two. He's an okay wide receiver. Look at Coach Harbaugh, and this is the one thing about Coach Harbaugh, what he's done this year in the offseason. He's built this offensive line. He has a running back in the backfield with Najee Harris. What's the one thing that he did with the San Francisco 49ers? He drafted Vernon Davis, who was a very good tight end for many years with the 49ers. I look at Colson Loveland, tight end from Michigan. Who's helped bring him into Michigan? Coach Harbaugh did. They need wide receiving help. They also still want to go out there and run the football. You're getting a 2-in-1 here. A very good blocking tight end that can go out there and be a very good wide receiver. His last season in Michigan wasn't his best season because the quarterback position was shot to hell. The year before, he had J.J. McCarthy, and he won the national championship with Coach Harbaugh. The ties are there. I have them selecting Colston Loveland with this pick, and he'll be a very good player with Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert has not had a good receiving tight end in his career. He could come in and be that Brock Bowers type of tight end on day one. I don't expect for him to go out there and have over 1,000 receiving yards in his rookie season, because they're going to use him as a blocking tight end and also as a receiving threat down the field. And it's going to open up the offense for Quentin Johnson, and the same with Ladd McConkey. And it'll be a very good fit with Coach Harbaugh, as him being a hard-nosed coach that loves to focus on running the football and getting his wide receivers open to space. And Colston Loveland can do that for you. With the 23rd pick, we have the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Green Bay Packers have not drafted a wide receiver in the first round in a very long time. They're known to draft wide receivers in the second or third round and let them develop all the way through. The problem is this: they don't have a true number one wide receiver on the outside. Christian Watson is a very good wide receiver, but he's inconsistent, and he tore his ACL last season. He may miss some time for the upcoming year. Romeo Doubs suffered a concussion against the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoff game. And you have Jaden Reed and you have Dontavian Wicks. Those are all good players, but they're not good enough to get the most out of Jordan Love. When I look at Emeka Egbuka with this pick, I think he's the perfect player to have in the system with Coastal Floor, because he's able to do so much. Now, he doesn't have that one trait that you can say that he's elite at, but he's a very good football player. He doesn't have blazing speed, but he's a very good route runner. And when you look at wide receivers that come from The Ohio State University over the last 8 to 10 years, they have cranked out some very good wide receivers, and Emeka Egbuka could be that guy. If I had to point at one thing with Emeka Egbuka, I would say that it's his hands. He's a very good route runner, but his hands, those are the best part of his game. He can catch pretty much anything that's in his catching radius. And I look at Jordan Love. He needs a safety blanket on the outside and also in the inside of the slot position. Emeka Egbuka could be that guy for you. With the 24th pick, we have the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Vikings made a lot of moves in free agency from the first mock draft. You went in, you brought in Javon Hargrave on the defense side of the ball. You also went out there and you brought in Will Fries from the Indianapolis Colts on the offensive line. But they still need some more offensive line help. They need some versatility there. You have J.J. McCarthy entering his first year as a full starter. We got to see him in his rookie season. In the preseason, he tore his meniscus. They had Sam Darnold. On the outside, you do have Jordan Addison, and you also have Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the game. And you also have a very good tight end in TJ. When you look at Tyler Booker from Alabama, he will fit the Minnesota Vikings very well because he's that big interior offensive lineman that can help push them over the top. The one thing that I've seen over the last few years with the Minnesota Vikings since Kevin O'Connell has been the head coach, phenomenal head coach, by the way, he has neglected the offensive line in the interior. And they have gotten their butts kicked in the playoffs by the New York Giants because of this and what happened against the Los Angeles Rams. We could say that Sam Darnold got exposed. Look at that offensive line. He got sacked 9 times in that matchup. You want to give JJ a fighting chance. You want to run the football and play complementary football and take those shots down the field. Bringing in Tyler Booker can help you out with that. In the skill positions, they're locked down on both sides of the ball. Cornerback, safety, wide receiver, running back, and quarterback, they're all set with the Vikings. You need offensive line help, go with Tyler Booker. With the 25th pick, we have the Houston Texans. They need offensive line help in the worst way possible also. They may be the most offensive line needy team in the draft because you traded Laramie Tunsil to the Washington Commanders. He had a lot of offside penalties last season, but he was still the best offensive lineman. You have Blake Fisher. We'll see if he can fully develop. But I look at Josh Cornerly. Very good offensive lineman coming over from Oregon. In the Senior Bowl, he did have a bad moment in practice. But besides that, he was very good all the way through. He's a very good offensive lineman. Doesn't let up a lot of pressures on the side as a tackle position. He's a very good run blocker also. He's a complete tackle. He doesn't have the highest ceiling, but he's a very good player coming straight out the gate. And that's what you're looking for with the Houston Texans. A solid, consistent offensive lineman. With the 26th pick, we have the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the one thing with the Rams over the last 3 years, particularly, They have struggled on the back end of their defense. They made a trade to bring in Jalen Ramsey when they won that Super Bowl run, and they won the Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals, but they had to trade him away. So they traded him to the Miami Dolphins, and it has been a major hole on the back end of their defense. We've seen them the last 2 years go through the NFL draft and build their defensive front with Byron Young, Kobe Turner. The same with the other players that you have up front with Braden Fisk, and the same with Jared Verse. But you need someone in the secondary that can be versatile. And I look at Jahdae Barron, defensive back from Texas. He could play safety. He could play the cornerback position. When you look at Brian Branch for the Detroit Lions, that's basically who Jahdae Barron is. Just a very good player in the secondary that causes a lot of disruption. And once again, in this division, you have Marvin Harrison Jr. to worry about with the Arizona Cardinals. You look at the other teams in this division, the San Francisco 49ers, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle. You need someone that can be a Swiss Army knife on the back end to also go against names like Jackson Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp. So going out there and bringing in someone like Jahdae Barron would be a very good draft pick for the Rams and would be a very good player overall, especially in this defensive system behind this front seven. With the 27th overall pick, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Baltimore Ravens, they have one of the best teams in the NFL roster-wise. You have an MVP quarterback in Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers. You're bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, Rashad Bateman. Your offense is set, but your defense took a major step back last year in the secondary. I want to go cornerback with this pick, but they don't have one edge rusher that truly stands out. And I look at an edge rusher from Boston College and Donovan Ezaraku, who is a very good player. He has that bend, and the way that he plays like a Raven. This is a man that can go out there, stop the run, get to the passer. He has that bend that you're looking for. And when scouts say that they have that bend, he can get low and he can stop the run, but he can get low and he can stop some of the fastest quarterbacks in the NFL because he has that athleticism, he has his speed. And when you look at Donovan, he is a definition of a Ravens player, just a nasty pass rusher on the edge. And that's the type of player that the Baltimore Ravens can use in different fronts in this defense with the defensive coordinator that you have. I would love this pick for the Baltimore Ravens. And honestly, Donovan Ezaraku is one of the most underrated players in this draft class. Do not be surprised if he comes out in year number 1 and he's a potential defensive player of the year for the rookies. That's how special he can be. With the 28th pick, we have the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have their offense set. You're bringing in 2 new coordinators, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. But their defense took a major step back last season when Aiden Hutchinson went down in terms of getting to the passer on a consistent basis. You did make a trade to bring in Zadarius Smith. As I record this video, he is still a free agent. You could possibly bring him in after the NFL draft or after this video has been published. So be on the lookout for that. But you still need a pass rusher alongside Aiden Hutchinson. I look at Mike Green from Marshall. He put up great numbers at Marshall. He played at a smaller school. He didn't get to play at Alabama, Georgia, Texas, one of the powerhouses, but he was very good all the way through. And this was the one thing with Mike Green. He was consistent in terms of beating double teams over and over again. It doesn't matter where you went to school. Sometimes it matters, can you produce on the next level? And when I look at him with the Detroit Lions, he doesn't have to be the best pass rusher on the team. He doesn't even have to be the second best pass rusher because they have a Liam McNeil, defensive tackle, and they have Aiden Hutchinson, who was on pace to go out there and win Defensive Player of the Year before he broke his leg against the Dallas Cowboys. Mike Green can come in and be a very good pass rusher on day one with the Detroit Lions in one-on-one situations. With the 29th pick, we have the Washington Commanders. The Commanders have reportedly, they've been looking at the running back position. They want to bring in a running back that can stay on the field first, second, and third down. They have a very interesting mix right now with Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. Those are not too bad running backs, but it gives away what you're going to do. When they bring in Austin Eckler, more times than not, they're going to throw him the football. When you have in Brian Robinson Jr., they're going to run it up through the middle. I look at Omarion Hampton. Very good running back from North Carolina. If it was not for Ashton Jeanty, he would be the best running back in this draft class, and he is worthy of a first-round pick. He can catch the football at the backfield. You can use him as a mini wide receiver, especially in this system with Cliff Kingsbury, and he's a home run hitter. When you have Jaden Daniels who's running around, You have to worry about that RPO action with Austin Eckler, who you're still going to use, and the same with Brian Robinson Jr. You mix him in the backfield. You're running this offense through Jaden Daniels and your running backs, and now you have Deebo Samuel. You can kick him out to the running back situation. You can kick him inside the slot to the outside, and you have Terry McLaurin. It adds in an extra wrinkle for the Washington Commanders, and this would be a great fit because he can be that home run hitter that the Commanders have been looking for at the running back position. And you made that trade to bring in Laramie Tunsil, so you don't need to go out there and bring in an offensive lineman with this pick. Don't be surprised they trade out the first round to build some more draft picks in the future. With the 30th overall pick, we have the Buffalo Bills. You're set on the offense with Josh Allen. You could bring in another wide receiver, but you can do that in the second or third round. Josh Allen was phenomenal last season, won league MVP. You have James Cook in the backfield. He's going through a contract negotiation period right now, so don't be surprised they draft a running back and they push him out the door because that could potentially happen. But when I look at what the Buffalo Bills need, they need more defensive help. And I look at Trey Amos, very good cornerback out of Ole Miss. The one thing with Sean McDermott, he loves his players in the secondary. And the Buffalo Bills, they continue to run to teams like the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. And what do both of those teams have? Very good wide receivers. You need to have a cornerback on the inside and on the outside that can go out there and try to match that firepower. You're getting that with Trey Amos. With the 31st pick, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. They could trade out of the first round. They could trade up into the first round. They need offensive line help, and that is true. But when I look at what they have right now and what they're going through, Chris Jones is a very good defensive tackle, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. You have George Karlaftis, very good player, and Charles Omenihu. I think they want to bring in some more defensive help because when you think about it, the Chiefs, they have Hollywood Brown. He's coming back. Rashee Rice, depending on that suspension, and if he'll get suspended because of the car accident, we'll see. They're bringing him back. And you also traded up to get Xavier Worthy last year. Those are three good wide receivers. And you still have Travis Kelce. They can go Mason Taylor with this pick. Very good tight end from LSU. I think that's a little rich for him. I don't see him going in the first round. But I do have them selecting Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Ole Miss. Now, you may say, why on earth would they select a defensive tackle and they have Chris Jones? Because now you can move Chris Jones around even more. The one thing the Kansas City Chiefs pride themselves on is stopping the run and getting to the quarterback. And that's one thing that Steve Spagnuolo loves to do. So having Chris Jones matched in with Walter Nolan, that's a defensive front from hell. It's going to be hard to run the football against the Kansas City Chiefs, and then they can blitz you even more. So it's one of those situations to where the rich continue to get richer. And with the 32nd overall pick, we have the Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. They did lose Josh Sweat, but they're still going to be very good in their front seven. They don't need to touch their offense. They have a true franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts, one of the best offensive lines and one of the best running backs in the NFL with Saquon. Look at their defense. The secondary is solid, but you traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Houston Texans. I look at Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia. What's the one thing that Howard Roseman has done? He has basically lived in Georgia. He might as well just buy a house in Atlanta because he loves to draft Georgia Bulldogs over and over again. From getting those defensive tackles in Jalen Carter to going out there and getting Nakobe Dean, they have built themselves Georgia 2.0 with their defense. And going out there and getting Malachi Starks, who is a very good rangy safety, especially in coverage, that's a great pick in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised if he went higher in the first round, but that's just the way things worked out for me in this mock draft. I know the Shedeur Sanders pick may be a bit controversial, but the Browns, they need a quarterback. But this is where I want you guys to get involved. I want to hear from you in the comment section below. Once you guys make your own mock drafts, I want to hear from you guys and grade my mock draft. It's an A, B, C, or an F. Let me know in the comment section below. But I really want to see what you guys have going on in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys.